So Mithika, now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are fine. I'm also okay. Mithika Linturi joined Rigathi today, and it is something that I feel like we need to at least look at what is the impact, if any. You see, politics, nothing happens without a reason. And Mithika would not just join Rigathi without a specific reason or intention or what he would hope to gain. And Rigathi also would not be willing to associate with the likes of Mithika Linturi if there was nothing he intends to gain. And that is what I want to briefly look at in this live session. And feel free to let me know where you're watching from, and also if the audio is okay. Because I'm testing a new setup, and maybe the audio may have issues or whatever. Back to Mithika Linturi. Mithika has been a very staunch supporter of President William Ruto. And not just a staunch supporter, he's been a friend of President William Ruto for a very long time. And so, why would he now desert President Ruto? You see, Mithika vied for gubernatorial, vied as a governor in Meru. He was Mithika, Kawira, and Kiraito. And Mithika Linturi, both Mithika and the Kiraito guy lost to Kawira, who has since been impeached, by the way. After that, President Ruto appointed Mithika Linturi into his cabinet in the very sensitive docket of agriculture. And during his time, he had a lot of problem with the Gen Zs. They were persuaded Mithika was one of the underperforming, underqualified, whatever it is, the term they were using, but they didn't have very kind words for Mithika Linturi. But President Ruto maintained him there. Actually, he came in as the CS for agriculture, and during that period, he really did his role. Whatever you want to say, Mithika did what he was supposed to do in the Ministry of Agriculture. And I think that is why the president retained him until there was this scandal of fake fertilizer, which there are some people who went to parliament, and there were proceedings to impeach Mithika Linturi, though he was saved. But then upon the disbandment of the cabinet, Mithika is one of the people who didn't come back. So there is how people reacted to this, ladies and gentlemen. There are those who did not really like being in the cold. And I can tell you, power sometimes really corrupts. Imagine waking up in the morning, you have a security, you have a PA, you have everybody doing whatever you want as a CS. And then tomorrow you find yourself maybe in the cold, the phones are quiet, etc. So there are people who take it a little bit hard, so to say. And I think Mithika is one of them, because he is not the only person who President Ruto did not bring back. And I believed that he hoped that whenever the president had an opportunity to bring people back, he was going to be brought back, considering that he has not only been a loyal friend of the president for long, and but he also considered that he also believed that he played a bigger role in getting the president votes in the larger Meru region. So his hope was that even though the president has disbanded the cabinet because of, let's say, to appease the Gen Zs, Mithika believed that should there be an opportunity, he would be one of the people the president would consider. And so, appointment after appointment, he didn't see himself being considered. And this became apparent when a young guy was picked to be in charge of water. And that person comes from the Meru region. So Mithika felt like the opportunity to be reappointed as a minister or as a CS was over. And because that opportunity was no longer there was no reason for him to continue waiting, let alone supporting Ruto. I think Mithika felt betrayed by President Ruto, that while others were being brought back and considering what he believes was his contribution, he wasn't brought back. I think that was the issue. That is when he started having this bitterness, because I saw his interview the other day on Weru TV. And while they were speaking in a language that I barely understand, the beauty with Kenyans nowadays is that even when they speak their language, they will 80% of whatever they will say in English. So it's like I was saying, for example, of course, things like that. So you could gather you could add one and two and actually understand what he was saying. And in this interview, Mithika really accused the president. He has never done that before. Remember, Mithika is not known to be this guy who goes and attacks leaders. Even when he differed with Uhuru, I didn't see him doing that. But when I saw that interview, I knew right away that Mithika was gone, and he had felt betrayed by the president, as I said, for not being reappointed back. And by the way, he didn't want other positions. It's not as if, I can say this, it's not as if other positions were not offered. He wanted the CS position because remember, he had vied as a governor. He believed that the only other option was for him to be a CS. And perhaps he liked being in the Ministry of Agriculture. If not, he would have preferred to be a CS nonetheless. And when like I told you, when he saw a young person picked from the region, he knew this thing is not going to work. And then to make matters worse, he saw Ruku, the one who replaced Muturi. And then now he knew his fate was sealed, that there was no way he was going to be picked. And so I think out of that anger, Mithika decided to do the interview. In that interview, he really bashed the president. What I found very funny is that as somebody who understands these leaders and have known Mithika and Rigathi Gachagua, I can tell you they never had a relationship. I can tell you that. Mithika is one of the people who never liked Rigathi Gachagua. In fact, he was persuaded that Rigathi Gachagua is the person who got him out of cabinet. Until very late, he believed that. So for him to now go back to Rigathi, I think is just a matter of saying, if Ruto can't value me, then I go to the person who attacks Ruto the most, and that is Rigathi Gachagua. That is just a background. So what is the impact? Is Mithika joining Rigathi something that would improve whatever it is that Rigathi is trying to achieve? Which I told you, Rigathi is purely looking for how can he be the Raila of Mount Kenya. He doesn't care whether it's about elections and other things or even replacing Ruto. That is none of Rigath's goal. I want to tell you that. He is not interested in replacing Ruto. What Rigathi wants is, can I use this euphoria? Can I use this bitterness that I find among my people to turn myself into a kingpin at the level of Raila Odinga? The way Raila Odinga controls Luo Nyanza, Rigathi desires that. He would want to control Mulima like that. And I'm not creating this, ladies and gentlemen. Rigathi said he really admires Raila and how he leads the people of Nyanza. He admires that. That is what he wants. So Mithika joining him, is that helping him achieve this goal? I am sorry to admit, but Mithika joining Rigathi is giving him some credibility. Unlike Muturi, who was a speaker for some time and then a CS, and whose complaints were being seen as some things that were being seen as personal complaints, that is. Mithika, being a friend of the president and being somebody who has not liked Rigathi for long, joining Rigathi and taking several MCAs to Wamunyoro really gives Rigathi some legitimacy. The feeling that he is being embraced in the region. Because Meru, Embu, and Tharaka leaders have not embraced Rigathi Gachagua. Actually, you can count any leader from Embu, Meru, Tharaka. There is no leader you can, apart from the MP from Embu town, I think, who was being seen with Rigathi for some time back. Majority of the Mount Kenya East leaders have stayed away from Rigathi Gachagua. And so this is the first time, in my opinion, is getting what you would call a major boost, a major endorsement from somebody like of Mithika's stature. And by the way, don't underestimate Mithika Linturi. He vied for the Meru gubernatorial seat, and the lady defeated them, but you know, UDA is the majority party in that particular assembly. So they really did well. So Mithika is not somebody you are going to wish away like that. I've just said that is giving some Rigathi some legitimacy. But now, what is it that Mithika wants? Like, okay, fine. He's moved to Rigathi to maybe stick it to Ruto, make Ruto see that if you don't appreciate me, I can go elsewhere and hurt you. Okay, fine. What about him? What does he want? I think Mithika wants to be the governor of Meru. And he feels like maybe the region eventually might be under Rigathi. And so it is better that he formalizes a relationship with Rigathi, so that when Rigathi forms his party, which I saw Malala alluding to today, when Rigathi forms his political party, and I have shared with you why he needs his own party for purposes of bargain and making money. Otherwise, he would have just picked one of the 37 parties that are led by people from Mount Kenya and popularized one. But he wouldn't do that. He will have a party that he can control, because I told you his goal is to be the kingpin of Mount Kenya and have control, have say on who is elected, when, and how. So Linturi wants to be the governor of Meru, and possibly, with Rigathi's blessing, he believes he can defeat Munya and Kiraitu, because I think 2027 we'll see Kiraitu, Munya, and Linturi battle it out. And Munya already has a party, PNU. It was a party, Mbas, and so Linturi needs a party, needs a home. And I think he will get that home in Rigathi's party. Should Rigathi's party be the dominant party? So, just to wrap up, just as a recap, Linturi was a very good friend of the president. Political changes happened, and he found himself home. And the fact that he was not picked back into the cabinet hit him hard. I think he saw that as a betrayal on the part of the president. And so, to hurt the president back, he has decided to join Rigathi Gachagua. And he hopes that through that association, he might get the gubernatorial seat through Rigathi's endorsement. I think that's what's going on. So, does it have an impact? Yes. It gives Rigathi legitimacy. How does it help Linturi? He hopes that Rigathi's party will be popular. He will ride on that and get elected governor. Can they work with President Ruto? Can President Ruto reach out to him? It's possible. Also, there's another angle that somebody was sharing, that perhaps Linturi is still just President Ruto's friend, who is now going to spy at Wamunyoro. It sounds far-fetched, but this is politics, so nothing out of the ordinary. It is not the first time that would be happening. Even during President Ruto's campaign, there are people who are very close to President Uhuru Kenyatta, like Anwar Guru, who defected and joined Ruto. And people believed that this was just Uhuru's spy in Ruto's camp. There were people like Muturi, Justin, who has been President Uhuru's long-term buddy. And for him to abandon Uhuru's project, Raila, and join Ruto, people started seeing that this is some spy. So there are people who also argue that perhaps Linturi is Ruto's spy at Wamunyoro. But like I said, that is far-fetched. What we are working with here is there to secure a gubernatorial seat. And since that lady is not going to vie courtesy of being impeached, we might see a race bringing back Peter Munya, Genes Kiraitu, and Linturi. I hope this was helpful. Let me see if there are anything to comment here. Oh, yeah. Ben Mugambi says that Linturi sold us feces in the name of fertilizer. Him and Gachagua are cut from the same cloth. Okay, I can see that. I don't think on the issue of fertilizer, I still maintain that Muturi was innocent. Whether I differ with somebody's political moves, I have learned not to just judge them simply because I differ with the political move they have made. I'm still persuaded that Linturi wasn't involved in this. Otherwise, it would have been used against him in parliament. There was no evidence. Even if you listened to the things that those people presented, I followed the entire thing. There was nothing tangible to remove Linturi. So, to some extent, he's right on the issue of saying he wasn't involved. So I believe he's right there. But I could be wrong, Ben Mugambi. I could be wrong. So, let me see. Good. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it. If there is anything you want us to talk about, you can comment. You may also let me know if the audio was okay, because this is a live setup. I was testing with the phone and this mic. Ben, thank you. Geoffrey Kitetu, where are the young Meru upcoming leaders in this matrix? In the matrix of a gubernatorial race, or what are you referring to? But if it is the issue of the gubernatorial race, Meru is a very interesting place because it seems leadership there is a preserve of certain people. I never vouched for Kawira. She was an independent candidate. And we had our candidate, Linturi, there. And but she won. And the way these leaders, the elect, I would call them, the way the elect dealt with that lady, it seems Meru is a different ball game together. Pen Nyagaka, you are an ODM goon. Get lost. Gusi is gone. Contrary to what you may think, Pen, contrary to what you may think, I have never belonged to ODM. Never. Like, there is nothing like I was a member of ODM before. I've never been. So I don't have history of belonging to ODM party. Yeah, I'm not even a member of ODM as of now. So the assumption that so long as somebody analyzes or shares political views that you disagree with, that makes him an ODM goon. I don't consider myself a goon, but also I'm telling you I've never belonged to ODM. And so it's okay to express yourself, but at least don't be prejudiced that much that you just conclude this is an ODM goon. Also, let me handle this issue of belief that Gusi is gone. This is something that is going to disappoint you, Mr. Nyagaka. Yes, you are saying Gusi will never vote for Raila. I can tell you they will if Raila was to vie. This is how politics work. And I could be wrong. So I'm not saying that that I have a marking scheme of how politics works. But I have sampled politics in different countries, how elections are done and what the result is. Just recently, there was an election in Germany. And do you know the party that gained the most? If you check, those who are, if you are here and you're watching from Germany, do you know the party that gained the most? It is a party of far right. It gained the most if you look at that election. Contrary to what the expectation or what the media was painting. The media was painting that it was going to be between conservatives and the moderates, the left were being the gainers. They were not the gainers. The main gainers in that election were the left, the far right party. This is something you can also look at in the US. The expectation of many was that at the end of the day, there is no way people are going to vote for somebody like Donald Trump. That is not how politics work. Politics is purely about emotion and regional interest. I want you, Nyagaka, to just bear with me and note that regional interest supersedes every other policy. I want you to know that in politics, when the voting day will come, people will vote for regional interest, number one. That is the main priority. Whether it is a developed country like US or a developing country like Kenya, regional interest will define how people vote. Let me tell you, for the 3 consecutive elections, Kambas have voted for Raila Odinga. 3 consecutive elections. Kambas have voted for Raila Odinga. 3 consecutive elections. Why? Why would Kambas vote for Raila Odinga? What is there for them? Well, in those elections, two of them, Kalonzo Musyoka, was Raila Odinga's running mate. So regional issue mattered to them. Their son was going to be number 2, should they win. Kisses since 2007, go and confirm, have voted for Raila Odinga. Go and check. We went to Kisii. I can tell you this. We went to Kisii. And Kisii, we believed that in the last election, we believed that President Ruto was going to win Kisii. No, it never happened. William Ruto got an average of 35% of the votes in Kisii. The rest went to Raila Odinga, even though there was a time that the entire Kisii never elected a single ODM MP. But when it came to presidential vote, they voted for Raila Odinga. Why? Regional interest. Kisiis are neighbors with Luos. They would rather be with Luos than to antagonize Luos. And that is what usually happens in Busia. That is what happens in Kakamega. And that is what happens in Vihiga. It is the same thing that happens in Mount Kenya. The Meru, the Embu, and the Tarakas are not relatives with Kikuyus. Actually, your brief history will tell you these are relatives of Kisiis. But check their history. They have always voted with Kikuyus. Why? Regional interest. Regional interest is very important. That is why I'm telling you, when Raila Odinga, let me use should Raila Odinga endorse President Ruto for 2027, the people who voted for Raila Odinga in 2022, save for Kambas and a few people from Mount Kenya, most of them, not all, and in politics, nothing like all, but majority of them will vote for whoever Raila will tell them to vote for. And that includes Nyagaka, Kisii, even if Matiang'i would be vying. Because the only time Kisiis rallied behind one of their own was in 2002, when they believed that Nyachai had what it takes to defeat Mwai Kibaki. They learned the hard lesson. Well, Ford people swept almost all the seats. Kisiis voted for Nyachai to the last man. Nyachai did not even become what you would call a distant third. He was there. It forced Nyachai to work with the same Kibaki. He went and worked in Kibaki's government. So Kisiis have learned that standing behind one of their own is not a guarantee that that one of their own is going to win. So that is not the issue here, ladies and gentlemen. Nyagaka, I'm telling you. Regional interest, we have our Matiang'i. And I'm telling you, see the Matiang'i guy, should he vie? Because I don't believe Matiang'i will vie. But should he vie? Okay? He is not going to get the endorsement of the entire Kisii. There are leaders who may want to hang on his court for purposes of election, and you've seen some from Gusi land who would want to make him a kingpin. It's difficult currently to have a kingpin in Kisii because the last time they had one was Nyachai, but then after that, the clan politics of Kisii. I come from a border of Kasipul and Bonchari, a place called Mugumo. And so I know the politics of Kisii is purely clan. And at times, the likes of Matiang'i cannot pull what Nyachai pulled. So don't be too sure, Ben Nyagaka. And I can tell you that should Raila endorse Ruto, majority of Kisiis will vote for William Ruto. That you can take. I did not intend to. I did not intend to address Nyagaka alone, but the analysis was over. I was just responding to the messages, to the comments, and if there is nothing else that we can respond to, because from the look of things, I have also read your messages. We can call it a day and try this another day, ladies and gentlemen. Nyagaka is on my neck. Nyagaka, I agree. Okay, fine. Let's just say you are right, Nyagaka, and I'm wrong. But 2027, God willing, if we are all alive, we may catch base and review. Okay? Jackson Dolly, stop cheating yourself and broad-based government, Raila and Ruto are past tense. Now that is political novice. You can't say that. Politically, I told you, and then Jackson, with all due respect, just don't feel like I'm dressing you down. I'm just telling you those are very novice statements, very novice. Politically, in this country, a combination of William Ruto and Raila Odinga is not a past tense. Unless you don't understand politics at all and you are putting emotions ahead of this. Whenever you approach politics, copy one rule. Don't go into politics with emotions. You will be really disappointed. Go with facts. Raila Odinga and William Ruto, a combined force of that is not past tense, unless the word past tense has a different meaning. That is the winning team. And I can tell you that. In 2007, that combination defeated Kibaki. That's why he was sworn in at night. He knew that he lost. That combination, remember, in 2022, William Ruto was number one. Guess who was number two? Raila Odinga. And not that number three was somebody competitive. No, it was a two-horse race. When those horses meet and combine force, and then you dismiss them as past tense, I would say that is being a political novice. Ayub and I, what do you mean by far right? So in the Western world, they categorize views as either conservative, left, center right, far right, things like that. Meaning that if you are too conservative, they consider you far right. And in German, there's a party that is really very, 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 very conservative. Too conservative. So most of their policies are very, very radical. And so they are considered far right. There are people who are too liberal also, who are considered far left. Beating it to your stream right now. Oh, Rezna, you are joining when I'm about to end this. But if you guys have something you want us to talk about, I'm still willing to talk. We engage. This is our country. We can discuss politics. Rezna has just come, and I hope Ayub, I hope I've answered you. Geoffrey, I think I answered you. Sam Rutich, hi, how are you? Thank you for tuning in. And that was it. I was just analyzing, sharing what I think is the impact of Linturi joining Rigathi. Otherwise, if there is nothing else, Kideshful. I like your analysis, very objective and truthful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the compliment. Like President Ruto said, it is very difficult to get compliment from Kenyans. So I thank you so much. I thank you for that. Let me see. I feel like if you have something you want us to discuss, we can. But if you have a question, you can ask in the comment section. Tatu media, okay, Tatu media, is Uhuru supporting Matiang'i and Kalonzo at the same time? Uhuru Kenyatta, I am persuaded, supports President Ruto. I know this sounds controversial, but I have looked at every other possible reason why Uhuru Kenyatta would oppose Ruto in 2027, and I don't see it. Because the only thing that Uhuru Kenyatta can dare dream is that he has somebody taking over from Ruto who he can control. The initial game was simple. Approaching 2022, Uhuru wanted somebody who was going to continue in his footstep, someone who was going to take over, but take over and be under his control. Ruto refused the deal. Raila agreed to the deal because Raila hoped that immediately he's elected, he's going to rebel. So things didn't work. Uhuru Kenyatta stayed with Raila for some time, but then Raila chose to work with Ruto for purposes of the politics of 2032, what I was analyzing the other day. Uhuru stayed in the cold for some time, but I think in the interest of the family or in the interest of their business, Uhuru Kenyatta chose to work with Ruto. What is the hint here? Apart from the meeting they had at Ishaweri, apart from the fact that he nominated people to serve in this government. And some people want to dismiss that the likes of Lee Kinyanjui, the likes of Mutai Kagwe, Nderitu Mureide, that these people just came to government out of Ruto's kindness, that Uhuru had nothing to do with that. That is being a liar. These things happened because Uhuru Kenyatta wanted his people in government. And those positions were not just any other position. Lee was taken to trade. Nderitu was taken to head KRA. Those are serious positions. And so Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto and Raila Odinga, I think, are in the same basket. Only that Uhuru Kenyatta is not being prominent or more pronounced politically or signing deals, considering he's a retired president. Remember, the rule demands that if he's to enjoy his retirement benefit, he has to be retired. He has to retire from active politics. Remember, there was a big deal over that when Uhuru was demanding. The day Kanzadena was issuing some statement and saying that they have not been paid, etc. The demand was for you to benefit as a retired president, you have to be retired from local politics. So Uhuru will not be going out there endorsing people or going out there making political statements. However, I can tell you, this is my belief, Tatu, that Uhuru Kenyatta supports William Ruto the same as Raila Odinga, because I think they also reached a point where they agreed that if they could not defeat William Ruto when he was a struggling DP, how is it possible that they will defeat him in 2027? And so you ask yourself, do I take chances? Do I try again and see if I can bring Ruto down? And what if I don't? Because if you don't and he's in his second term, he might not be very kind. And that is how politics works world over. At times you calculate and you say, it's not worth it. At times you calculate and you say, it's not worth it. I don't need to go after this guy because the chances of the repercussions, should I not win or should I not succeed, are dire. And so Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga support William Ruto. How does Matiang'i and Kalonzo come in? I can confirm to you that Kalonzo was supposed to join the broad-based government. That I can confirm. Actually, even before Raila, Kalonzo was to join broad-based government very early. He just had some crazy demands. I won't share more, but I can tell you there were very crazy demands. So it kept us thinking, people were thinking, why would Kalonzo, of all the people who is politically disadvantaged, by the way, be making this demand? Then we realized he believes he has inherited the Mount Kenya vote. And that if Kalonzo gets the Mount Kenya vote, he's not just an ordinary Kalonzo that you know. He becomes a very, very powerful contender because Mount Kenya has serious votes. Their 60% is serious vote, by the way. And so Kalonzo is persuaded that through Rigathi, he has inherited the Mount Kenya vote. And he doesn't even need Uhuru, by the way. With the Mount Kenya votes, if they can all, if majority, that not all, Mount Kenya will not vote 100% for one person. This time, the votes will be divided as they were divided in 2002. Yes, the votes will be divided. Some will go for Ruto, others will go for whoever Rigathi will tell them. Riziki Salim, hi, how are you? How are you? Thank you. Weaverbird. Kedish. Okay, let me see. Weaverbird, hi. Hi. Okay. Tatu, I hope I answered you. Kedish, based on your sixth sense, what is Raila's game plan for 2027? No big deal. No main issue, in my opinion, Kedish. Raila's options are very simple. Endorse William Ruto for 2027. And then in 2032, they will have a candidate of their own who may be from Nyanza or Western to take over from William Ruto. That is the best deal for him. The other option would be, I did a video, by the way, you can check on the channel. The other option would be if he decided to vie. But then there are things that you can do with age, there are things you can't do. So maybe campaigning against Ruto, somebody who can campaign from morning to evening for 365 days, that might not be something Raila would want to put himself through. And considering part of him likes Ruto anyway. So chances are that he will endorse William Ruto. I think that is what his game plan is. And I would ask you to ignore the likes of Renga and Sifuna. They don't speak for Raila, but they speak for a certain constituency also in Luoland. By the way, you need to know this. There is also a certain constituency in Luoland, though very small, that does not like the fact that Raila is not going to be on the ballot. So they don't like the handshake in any form. I remember in 2018, they were also still there. When Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta formed that, shook their hand at Arambe House, you can go to Raila Odinga's page on Facebook, look for a post he did on the Easter of 2018 year. And you will see a lot of insult. That is the most commented post, actually. It will be very easy to find it. It's the most commented post in Raila's page. And you will find that almost 90% of the comments there from Luos were insulting him for betraying the people. But then later, he just gave them an enemy. All that you need in politics of Kenya is to give people who they are going to vote against, not vote for. So he found an enemy in Ruto, and within a short time, Luos were now like, Ruto is the worst person. So currently, Luos don't, these people still don't have an enemy. They will be given an enemy, and that's how politics of Kenya works. Weaverbird. Ruto's Kumi Bila break is real. I saw the China trip will yield a lot to Kenyans, mostly the local. President Ruto's re-election is not as complicated as people put it. The only thing that can challenge him seriously is if out of the 5 promises, if you've analyzed the better, so if out of the 5 things that he promised, if he doesn't deliver even let's say 25% or 50 or 40% of that, then people will doubt his ability to deliver the remaining ones. And you see, William Ruto is held to the highest standards. Even the demands that you see the populace having for him are so high. I don't think any presidential candidate or president has gone through that. The people are so awake. The people are monitoring everything you're doing, and they want results. So it's upon the president to actually do so much within the time available, so that by 2027, as he puts it, he will tell people, I made this and this and this promises, and this is where we are. I have made this and this and this achievements so far. And I know some of you may not like this, but I can tell you, out of those, the big five agenda that forms the better plan, the bottom-up economic transformative agenda, he's seized of them and is doing something. And Tatu is asking a very delicate thing. Tatu media, Riziki Salim, dog. Hi, how are you? Welcome. Tatu media is asking, and is Ruto going to change his running mate? Take a female, and from which region? This is tricky, and it depends on two things. If Mount Kenya is gone, currently the president is persuaded he can still get some people, maybe a percentage, 30, 40 there. But he's a realist. He's a political realist. That is why he is where he is. He doesn't gamble. If he realizes that Mount Kenya is gone, and by gone I mean that he cannot get more than 10, he cannot get more than 20 or 30%, chances are that President Ruto will look for a running mate from the western part of Kenya. A woman, I don't know, but there is that possibility of going into 2027 with a different running mate. But if things were to look bright for him in Mount Kenya, then there will be no need to change a running mate, because picture this, Tatu. If you were to get, let's say, 40% from Mount Kenya, and you have Raila's word that is going to get you something, and let's say is not demanding for a running mate position from his region, etc., then you don't need to change the running mate. But if Mount Kenya you are sure that based on research or intelligence you can get 20%, then you don't need to have a running mate from Mount Kenya. You can have a running mate from another place, because what running mates do is to encourage voter turnout. If you have a running mate from a region, like I told you, I think I told somebody here, regional interests supersede everything. So if a running mate is coming from your region, people feel like we need to go out there and ensure that our son or our daughter is elected. Weaver Bad. Yeah, this is engaging. Weaver Bad. I see Rigathi with this team of failures to front a candidate other than Kalonzo. I don't think. The best thing for Rigathi, if he indeed cares about relevance, he has to pick Kalonzo Musyoka. I was in Machakos County for, I think, 2 weeks. And not just seated somewhere, no. We were moving through all those counties, through those sub-counties. And the Machakos is vast. I learned that. It's a very vast and rocky place. But when you talk to the populace, the locals there, they are 100% persuaded that Mount Kenya are going to vote for Kalonzo Musyoka, because also that is what Rigathi has painted. So I don't see Rigathi going for another candidate. There is unless you mean that he's going to nominate a candidate from his party who is going to be maybe Kalonzo's running mate. But the person that they can front and have something out of it, have a fighting chance, is none other than Kalonzo Musyoka. Because the Kamba will be there. You add with the Mount Kenya, he has a good start. So I don't think he's going to pick another candidate. Given the current three big positions, that is president, that is EM, okay. EM is saying, given the current three big positions, that is president, DP, and principal cabinet secretary, prime cabinet secretary, are all in UDA, how does the president get ODM to support him 2027? Won't they ask for one of these? The 2027, if the president and if Raila is going to endorse the president in 2027, it will be a coalition between UDA and ODM. That is why the president convinced Mudavadi to join UDA, so that when negotiations are done when Mudavadi is part of UDA. You see, when he's an outsider, it's difficult. You would find that things will be signed in your absence because you are from another party. Even the other day when the president and ODM were signing a memorandum of understanding, you didn't see other parties that form Kenya Kwanza, and that puts them at a disadvantage. That is why you need one party, members to be members of UDA, so that when you negotiate with ODM, you negotiate as a party, not as a coalition. Because ODM is also not very good at negotiations. They will demand and demand and demand. But when the negotiations come, when the time for the negotiations come in maybe 2026 or early 2027, the belief is that ODM will most likely demand a running mate and some serious positions. That is something that will not be far-fetched. I don't think it will be far-fetched. ODM is likely to demand for those. And if circumstances are like that, Mount Kenya is gone, the president will give in to that, because then it will be a matter of trying to ensure that by 2032, ODM takes over the presidency. That may be the deal. I hope I tried, ladies and gentlemen, to answer. We've thank you for this engagement. Is there a likelihood of NADCO report passes Raila to be given a prime minister position, and if they get into coalition agreement with the ruling party? The NADCO report might need a referendum, because if you change governance, then you have to go to the people. I don't know. I don't want to say that I'm giving a legal position. It's just that if you check the constitution, you don't tinker with some parts of this constitution unless you've engaged the people. And if you want to have a referendum, you remember what happened to BBI. The biggest thing is if that particular process is begun by the executive, it might suffer the same fate. So I hope if they're going to bring it to a referendum, which is also risky politically, because if you choose to test the waters before 2027, you never know what the results will be. What if you test, because changing governance to create positions, Kenyans may not really support that. I'm not second guessing Kenyans, but it's likely that even if we were to go for a referendum, it might be a very competitive uh, referendum. Results might be of those of 205 when the Wako draft was flopped because people rejected it. So I don't think it's very safe to go for that. But if they can find a way of doing it within parliament, which I don't know whether that's possible to change governance through that, then most certainly they will create that position and give it to ODM. Most certainly. Mm-hmm. So, any other? I hope I've answered all your questions. Remember, this was just looking at what's the impact of Linturi joining Rigathi. And if you just joined, I've given you history of Linturi and President Ruto. Thank you, Johnson Gichuru, for the compliment. I really thank you. That is very encouraging. I have always followed your analysis, and I can assure you it's above any other analysis in this platform. I'm flattered, but thank you so much. And I hope you've subscribed. I was just saying that Linturi joining Rigathi is not a small thing. So it's not something we should dismiss because that is president's friend. I think he feels betrayed that he was not brought back into cabinet. And he sensed that there would be no room when the president picked Ruku, because he thought that if Muturi was removed, he might be picked back. And so after seeing that, I think he has decided he wants to go for the gubernatorial race. He wants to go for the governor of Meru. He wants to try again. And the hope is that Rigathi's party will be very popular by then, so that he can ride on that and get elected governor. I think that's what I wanted to share with you on Linturi. Or another issue is, does it affect the president? As a friend, if you lose a friend of yours to somebody who has now decided is going to criticize you from morning to evening like Rigathi, it becomes a challenge, but not something unexpected, because there is no constituency that Linturi is taking to Rigathi. It's not, if the people of Meru are with Rigathi, they will not be Rigathi because of Linturi. So I think Linturi is riding on that. But losing a friend to Rigathi is not pleasant. I can say that. What about the grand scheme of things? Some people are saying that perhaps Linturi is simply trying to spy, considering they're friends with the president. So perhaps he's a spy at Wamunyoro. Some people are saying that. I don't believe so, but because I watched his interview. He was a very sad fella, and you could see how sad he was, because some of the stories he was making up, I can tell he was making up some of the stories, and it was as a result of bitterness, feeling like I should have been brought back. He I think he also refused to take other positions, because you see, the president has really tried to sort out his friends. One thing that sets President Ruto apart, even those who don't agree with him, they will tell you that he sorts his friends. He tries his level best. Remember, even Aisha Juma went through hell standing with Ruto. And after the cabinet was disbanded, she was there in the cold. And the president found a way. Is a chair of a board. That is, in some cases, a serious demotion. But you see, she chairs a board that has a budget that is bigger than 4 ministries. The roads board is big, huge. Akina Babu are sorted. not at ministerial level, but he's at the UN, Nakumincha. These people, the president has tried to actually sort out his friends. And so Muturi perhaps is justified to feel like he was not sorted. But also the issue is perhaps he was given a post and he felt too big for it. Okay? Perhaps he felt too big for it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very wonderful time speaking with you. If you like these lives, you can let me know so that at least when we find time, we converse. We converse because, as you've seen, I read your comments and I'm not going to ignore them. I'm lucky that there are still very few comments, so it is very easy to engage. I've watched some live streams where where the comments are running. Okay, you can't even read. I'm glad that we are still a young channel, so we can still engage at personal level. We've had this is the real politics without taking sides. Keep up the good work. Thank you, sir. Shadrach Kiplagat. Always and ever people join to beat Ruto, but not to help Kenyans. Yeah. What do you think about Nidinyoro? Grace, this is something I wanted to comment on because it will be injustice to ignore your comments. I skipped it, but I wanted to talk about it. Thank you. Now, Ndindi Nyoro is a brilliant politician. He's a young guy. I believe Ndindi Nyoro, I've met him and I realize he's younger than me, which is a very interesting thing considering his achievements. Ndindi Nyoro is a very brilliant politician. What he did, first of all, he has made sure, and Grace, I want you to get how Ndindi Nyoro is a brilliant politician. You see, it is Ndindi Nyoro that made Rigathi to be impeached. I even did a video about this. Some people thought it was far-fetched, but when I explained why, they understood it. Ndindi Nyoro decided to start a small campaign, which scared Rigathi, which removed Rigathi from the presidency level to regional wars. So Rigathi would now focus on being Mutu wa Murima, Watu Wetu, etc., just to get rid of Ndindi Nyoro. Once Ndindi Nyoro realized that Rigathi was no longer now the national leader he should be, and focus back on containing Murema, Ndindi Nyoro withdrew. It left Rigathi there, trying to now be Mutu wa Murima, etc., and people were like, come on, you are the deputy president. And he was like, no, I cannot lose Murima. Eventually, he went home. When it was time to impeach Rigathi, Ndindi Nyoro could have just gone to Bunge and said no. He was not going to be the only MP from that region who stood with Rigathi. The likes of Muchomba and others, they stood with Rigathi openly. Kiombori, all these people. So Ndindi Nyoro could have done the same, but he didn't. Actually, he boycotted the thing. He abstained. He did not sign against or for the impeachment. Neither did he participate in the voting. He never voted. Why is this brilliant? Because if he went and stood with Rigathi Gachagua, it would make him one of Rigathi's minions. Because Rigathi can only see you either as a competitor or a minion. Somebody who is below him or competing with him. And Ndindi Nyoro knew that if he went to parliament and voted for Rigathi Gachagua, Rigathi was going to see in him a minion, somebody who is below him and cheering him and a sycophant of him, and somebody who depends on him for re-election. Because most of the MPs, that stood with Rigathi, they don't like him. they did that because of political expediency. The Nyotu guys, these are the people who are cheering Dininyoro and saying, Dininyoro the sixth. And but now they are with Rigathi and praising him from morning to evening because they feel like if they stay with him and he becomes popular and is the one to decide what happens in Mount Kenya, they are re-elected or get the positions they want. Dininyoro, however, made sure that Rigathi will need to engage him because, too, he also has ground. It's very possible for Dininyoro to be even elected as an independent candidate because he has done a lot for the people of Kiaru. They don't hate him. Some are feeling like he's flip-flopping or that he doesn't have msimamo or that he's a coward. But if you go to Kiharu, are you going to get a sentiment that Ndininyoro is a traitor and Ndininyoro is somebody we cannot elect? No, they will tell you that is their guy. And so it gives Ndininyoro a room to grow and even threaten to vie. A very brilliant politician. As to why he's now talking about budgets and criticizing the president for borrowing and etc., this is also still just politics, real politics to be precise. He is trying to convince those who think that is a project of Ruto, because there are those who think, there are those who are believing that, believe that Ndininyoro is Ruto's project, a Trojan horse that he will use when the time comes. So if he criticizes the president, at least some people feel like, no, he's no longer with Ruto. He's independent, but he's ours, especially in Mulima. I think, Grace, I did justice to that. I don't know if you found that useful, but I thought I didn't had to talk about Ndindi. Thank you, Grace. You agree? Shadrach, I guess people don't know Karua doesn't want to be a running mate. Karua is dying to be a running mate of Kalonzo Musyoka. That is something she is really dying to be. I just don't see, because I think the agreement with Rigathi, when Rigathi went to her, was that she was going to be pushed as the running mate. But you see, now the problem is that Rigathi is promising everybody everything. He's promising Muturi the same. He's promising everyone. Rigathi even the other day was saying he's willing to abandon everybody and make Raila president. So that is a big challenge. But Karua wants to be the running mate. I don't think that she believes she can win. The beauty also with Karua is she's extremely entitled and very arrogant. So if these people joke with her and they don't give her whatever she wants, she will vie. Yeah, chances are that she will vie. Grace is saying, I have a feeling Dindi is guarding Kiharu against Rigiji. I think, but he will get Kiharu whether he has the endorsement of Rigiji or not. Dininyoro is really a smart politician. Young, but I admire smart politicians. I wouldn't. He's a friend of Babu, but I have issues with how Babu approached politics because his realities are different from those of Dininyoro. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have had enough. Unless there is something burning that you want me to comment on, allow me to say thank you for taking your time to watch. I don't take it for granted. This is raw politics. We just discuss what the facts are. They might not be palatable. They may not go according to your belief. But the fact that we have divergent views do not make us enemies. Let us reach a level where even if I differ with you, we can still talk and reach some consensus. I really thank you once more. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. If you found it useful, share it with friends also. Thank you so much.